Hi, and welcome to Ladies of Another View on Back. I'm joined today with Carmen and April, and we have today not a new host, although she could be, McKenzie McCoy. She is the executive director of the North Dakota Right to Life. And we're going to be talking about abortion, post-abortion, grieving. What does abortion look like in North Dakota? Because we've talked about this topic before, but there's a lot of different angles. And it's an ongoing issue. It's not going away. And so I wanted to take a deeper dive into what's going on in North Dakota and to talk with some women who have had abortions so that we could be aware and be sensitive and realize that we care about everybody and how can we convey that and not hurt people.
Exactly.
So welcome and thank you for driving in today.
No problem. Thank you for having me. This is a great opportunity and I'm very blessed. Thank you.
Carmen and I were at the Right to Life conference
Yes.
that the North Dakota Family Alliance put on, and we watched you, Mackenzie, and we were like, wow, she is so good. And you had nothing written. You threw your speech away at 3 in the morning.
Yep, I did.
You just spoke from the heart. And so why don't you tell us, what is the North Dakota Right to Life?
So North Dakota Right to Life is an organization that was founded in 1970. And the first part of their mission was the legislation and advocacy to protect the unborn. And then a little bit later in 1978, we had an educational arm. So we have three main branches of service. It would be our education, our legislation, and advocacy. And the education part, we not only educate our members, but the general public about truthful, factual, all sides of the life argument and spectrum. So we make sure that the information is factual and truthful, and it's well-informed and well-rounded for the general public. So let's go with the education arm then, because how many abortions are there a day or a year in the United States? And then we're going to put up some graphics, and you can talk about what's going on in North Dakota. So nationally, there is about 3,000 abortions a day, which is sad and just crazy when you think about it and compare it to any other health issue or death or mortality statistic. Abortion, there's just a huge gap between abortion and heart disease, cancer, motor vehicle accidents, etc. I mean, it's ginormous gap in between. And then if you bring that down to a state level, about 25 abortions happen every Wednesday in Fargo at the abortion facility there. And that gives you about roughly 1,100 abortions in the state of North Dakota every year.
So a kindergarten class every week?
Yep, every week, kindergarten class.
And let's take a look. We've got some graphics that you provided that show us who are the ones having these abortions going to Fargo. So
most of them, a majority of them I should say, 37% are coming from the Fargo area, followed by the Bismarck area at 20%, and then we go over to Minot, Grand Forks, and then you kind of fill in the gap from there. And you'll notice it trends where there are colleges or universities. That's where we're seeing a majority of our women coming from, and then the more rural outlying regions.
Okay, let's go on to the next graphic. So who are they?
So in North Dakota, these women are generally 20 to 24. That's our highest area, 20 to 24, followed by the 25 to 29 age range. And a majority of these women in North Dakota statistically are white, and they have graduated from college, or not have graduated from college, graduated from high school, and have some college or have graduated from college.
Okay, let's look at the next graphic, because we're finding they come from college areas, mostly white, but then the minorities are represented in a higher percent than they do exist in our population, right?
Exactly. It's an inverse relationship. So we have a lower, majority of our population is Caucasian, and then followed by your blacks and your Native Americans. But the percentage of the population is so small, but when you look the percentage of that population having an abortion is actually inverse. It's higher than the women who are Caucasian presenting with for abortion.
And we have one more graphic for this segment I wanted to take a look at. And most are unmarried.
Yep.
83%.
A majority, 83% are unmarried. They're not in a long-term relationship. So to kind of bring it all together, the people we're missing are, she's white, she's 20 to 26 years old, generally has a high school education, has some college, if not graduated from college, and she's single. So
and feels like maybe she has no other choice.
Feels like there's no other choice. And also, additionally, this wasn't a statistic on the slides, but she comes from a religious background, a religious home, or brought up in a faith and is, answers that she has a denomination or a religion.
And so what happens? I mean, what do you think is happening that they had religion in their home, they're educated, but they're not choosing, so many of them are choosing abortion instead of life. What's going on?
Fear and fear of judgment and fear of what people are going to think.
And if you want to tell your story, this is, I mean, you're welcome to.
Yes, I am a post-abortive woman, and I fit absolutely perfectly into that demographic and that description of the woman that we're missing. And mine was fear. I felt like there was no other option. I was, ashamed of getting pregnant outside of marriage. I knew I shouldn't have been doing those things because that was one thing that I was taught growing up that wasn't something you should be doing. And then, I knew that one of the outcomes of those behaviors could be to produce a life. But I was afraid to tell my family, afraid to have my community find out that, I gotten pregnant outside of wedlock. I was afraid to have to stay in the relationship I was in. It wasn't a bad relationship. He was a very great guy. I just knew that, I wasn't gonna marry him, and I was afraid that I would have to, be in that relationship forever then. And fear of not being able to afford the child, not being able to have the career that I had wanted and was striving for. It was just fear after fear after fear. And, I just felt backed into a corner, and that really the only solution was for no one to know and to just handle it quietly behind closed doors, because that's what happens.
And so basically in an instant, you were pretty pro-life, and all of a sudden everything changed in an instant because now it's personal and there was an escape route, right?
Right,
Seemed
exactly.
to be.
Yeah, it was just, I remember a conversation in college with some friends, and we somehow got on the topic of birth control and abortion, and I said, well, I would never have an abortion, but who am I to tell someone else?
Yep.
And fast forward about 5 years later, there I was, and the choice.
Everything looked differently suddenly, didn't it?
Everything suddenly looked differently, and I had no skill set, or I didn't feel like I didn't know about any other resources other than the abortion industry.
So when we come back, we have to take a quick break,
Yep.
and when we come back, we're going to talk about some of those resources and how do we let women know what they are, and a little bit about your job, how you're trying to reach women. So stay with us. We'll be right back with Ladies of Another View on Beck.
My name is Jolene Keplen, and I work for Tribal Health Education. Our health education staff encourages our Native American women to get screened right away for breast and cervical cancer. There's a lot of our women in our community that take care of their grandchildren, and I tell them, if you're not there, who's going to take care of your grandchildren? Early detection is the best protection for our Native American women.
The Kim Albert Agency, offering insurance protection for all that's precious to you. Auto, home, business, and life, along with RV, boat, motorcycle, and renter's insurance. With the Kim Albert Agency, you're in good hands.
It's Bucks season. Perfect time to recognize loyal customers, show employee appreciation, and celebrate the victory. Your Bismarck Bucks season is coming quickly. Select your game day and bring your team to see our team. Plan early and be a part of what makes Bucks football great.
Hi, I'm Dennis Haugen, along with my sons Andy and Mike, and we're showing our support for wind energy in North Dakota.
Wind energy has provided farmers like us with a steady stream of income that's not tied to the weather like crops and cattle are.
Another bonus is that wind farm owners are required to maintain the roads leading up to the turbines. Because of that, oftentimes these roads are the best in the county. Wind energy is good for landowners, it's good for the land, it's good for our economy, and it's good for North Dakota.
When you can't find answers to your recurring health challenges, it can feel like your health and your future are being held hostage. The Wellness Way is a network of health restoration clinics that think and act differently to solve the health challenges others can't. Here, we disrupt the standard approach to care through a combination of testing, individual plans, and one-on-one guidance, putting your health and your future where they belong, in your own hands.
Pub 21, your one stop for fun, drinks, and food. Our spacious facility provides COVID-safe fun for you and all your friends. With nightly bingo and specials, you can be sure there's something to do for everyone. If you're staying in for the night, we've got you covered just across the way with Pub 21 Liquor. We have a wide variety of options, from wine to whiskey and everything in between. Stop in today at 1014 South 12th Street in Bismarck to see what all the buzz is about. You won't be disappointed.
40 years ago, Aero Service Team started with one truck and lots of hard work.
Times may have changed, but the hard work that we put in to get your lives back in order after fire, water, and disaster hasn't.
Over the years, we've seen so many families lose their belongings due to water and fire damage. Restoring homes back to the original state has made every hour of hard work well worth it.
Thank you for trusting our family with yours.
When disaster strikes, you only have to make one call. Aero Service Team does it all.
Hi, and welcome back to Ladies of Another View on Back, and we are once again joined with McKenzie McCoy, the Executive Director of the North Dakota Right to Life, and we've been talking about the face of abortion in North Dakota, what it looks like, and also, you know, that McKenzie was in that group that is very at high risk for having abortion and explaining. I want to look at 3 more graphics, and then we'll get back into our conversation. So who are they? Tell us about this.
So this graph is just breaking it down trend-wise in North Dakota, and this takes out North Dakota residents. So earlier I had said, you know, on average, 1,100 abortions are happening in North Dakota every year. Of those 1,100, there are 833 women from North Dakota.
Okay.
So those are North Dakota women who are having this, an abortion in Fargo, and about 7% of all North Dakota pregnancies would end in an elective termination, basically, based on that. But you'll notice it's trending down, and that's a good thing. You know, we saw these peaks and valleys, but then in 2012-13, we went drastically down. Well, that was, I believe that was the year that Betty Grandy's bill, the heartbeat bill, came in.
Okay.
Now, that has been, I believe the correct term is enjoined, and once Roe v. Wade is overturned, that will go into effect in North Dakota. But
right, and so we're going to get back to that, because there's going to be legislation we need to know about on Monday that the Democrats are trying to push through the Senate.
Yes.
That would
Very
undo
alarming.
that trigger bill, that we would become an abortion-free state.
Yes.
But I'm ahead of myself, though, but
No,
we need to get right back to that. So I want to.
So it's good. We're trending down, and then we've kind of flattened out a little bit. We had a little uptick there in 2020, but we all know what happened in 2020.
And so the blue line is the number of abortions, and then the pink line is just the trend
Just the
down.
average of trending down. Yep.
Yep.
Okay, let's go on to the next graphic, because we have 2 more here. So teen pregnancies, those numbers have gone down. And do you have any theory as to why that would be?
Yes. I believe that we had a very strong educational push I remember when I was in high school, there was a lot of education around becoming pregnant in high school, and you should wait, and if he's worth it, he'll wait for you. I remember those, and I don't know if I don't think that that's happening anymore. I mean, maybe it is. North Dakota does a really good job of keeping out the sexual education courses that aren't so good, but education, played a huge role in that. In North Dakota, our population, we still really focus and believe in the nuclear family. And that helps because that is the base of all of this, is those intact nuclear families. So those are some things that have helped too. And, much to the disappointment of the abortion industry, they can't use this statistic anymore in North Dakota about, we need to have abortion, and we need those services to help out these teens because
they're having less and less of a need.
Exactly.
Which doesn't make them happy. And
well, is it also, is there a piece where more and more young girls are starting birth control at an earlier age, and that plays a part as well?
Excellent
and the schools,
point.
I think, help instigate that.
They do, because now you can go and get birth control without your parents knowing. So
and I'm not sure I agree with that.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, that is definitely another area that
13.
You shouldn't. They're not adults.
Right.
Their parents are still.
At 13, you can go and get birth control. You have to pay for it, and the insurance company will not let you know what the services were for.
Exactly.
Yep.
That is ridiculous.
That's another show.
Yeah. So that does attribute to some of the decline in teen pregnancies, is because birth control is definitely more available, and it's really like one of the main teaching points. If you're going to engage in that activity outside of marriage, make sure you have birth control.
And tell me, what's the problem with that message?
That message is that you are not respecting your body, and you are not truly loving and cherishing and seeing your fertility as a gift. It's just a tool or some necessity to fill, a wanting or a longing. It's not anything. It's not love. It's not respect in any way, shape, or form. And you can do whatever you want with whoever you want, whenever you want. And
that's a terrible message.
Yeah, and we live in that society. It's everywhere. I mean, wherever you go, online, offline, in between, in your textbooks, in your school, it's everywhere like that. And my question then becomes, where is the church or the faith of whatever church people belong to? Where is that piece to help with parents and kids talking about this and finding out about the sacred part of this whole thing, finding out about just what you said as far as having respect for your body and the gift of your sexuality and things like that. Where's that conversation anywhere? And if it gets into schools, it's like, oh no, you're going to bring God in. No, you're out.
Exactly.
And so that's another whole hurdle, I think, because I think there's a lot of girls that maybe don't even want to go on birth control, but it's like, well, I know I'm going to have to. I better be prepared because something's going to happen, you know? And I think there's just a big gap there in messaging.
There is. There's no respect or self-respect for your body and your fertility as a gift, and that it should be protected and cherished.